This is the Older Adult Oral Video Presentation by Emily Francis. I interviewed an elder lady whom I was just meeting for the first time. I met her through a mutual friend, and she was her mother-in-law. I will refer to her as Jay throughout this presentation to keep her identity private. Jay grew up in rural Pennsylvania in a little town called Fountain Hill. She was born and raised in a low to middle class family. Jay had 4 younger siblings. Her parents were happily married, and that was a very important aspect of her childhood. They were a 1-car family and they lived on a budget. She was the top of her high school class and a cheerleader. When asking Jay, who is now 82 years old, to identify a tough time in her life, she had to think long and hard, especially because she grew up with such a wonderful family. Finally, she talked about her adolescent years. Although she was happy, she remembers not knowing anything about the outside world. Her parents kept her in a bubble where she experienced no other race, culture, or religious views. She was the top of her high school class, and her biggest struggle was not being able to attend college. Even though she was smart enough, her parents did not think it was necessary. Her family also did not have the funds to send her either. Since her parents worked blue-collar jobs in different hours to make ends meet, Jay was forced to take care of her siblings, so she stated she could not get her own job to make up the money for college herself. Jay also did not have the proper resources from her peers or students or teachers to go to college. I have related Jay's interview to Erik Erikson's theory of development. This is stage 5, identity versus role confusion. It occurs during the adolescent years, age 12 through 18. It is characterized by identity versus confusion. Identity commitments are to relationships, sexual orientation, religion, career goals, and ideals. Identity also includes finding a sense of self and personal identity through exploring beliefs, goals, and personal values. Identity can select or reject many aspects of life. According to Bowles, during adolescent years, this is the developmental period which young individuals explore and confirm their career trajectories. When looking at role confusion, which is the other side of Erikson's theory, this is the lack of direction. Role confusion also includes society restricts choices. It is unprepared for different challenges in adulthood, and adolescents find failure to identify outside of their family or peers. The success of finding one's self and personal identity through exploring beliefs, goals, and personal values is compared to failures, which leads to not finding identity outside of family or peers. Significant experiences that happen in Jay's life during her adolescent years include she was a straight A student, she was the top of her class, she wanted to go to school to be a doctor. Her family wasn't able to afford college, she was not given the proper resources on how to obtain grants or scholarships. She knew she wanted to be a mother and get married one day, but her parents thought that should happen at a young age and college was unimportant. She grew up with no experience of other race until the age of 45. She was raised in a racist family with strong Catholic views. Regeline believes the social environment is important. Being comfortable in your environment as an adolescent helps create meaningful and happy relationships. Happy environments and relationships in adolescent years also lowers depression and anxiety. Jay faced many challenges and accomplishments as an adolescent. She was not able to work or save up money for college. She didn't have the resources to go to college. She was really experiencing role confusion and on what to do with her life since she was unable to attend college. She had troubles then identifying friendships, and she was drifting between jobs and relationships. The psychosocial crisis resolution. According to Rogers, psychosocial crisis is a time of development period when a person has to resolve a conflict in their life. Rogers also says committing to a certain identity, including a career path, sexual identity, social groups, developing personal style, is also part of psychosocial crisis. When asking Jay how she was committing to a certain identity, she stated she was uncertain of her career path during her adolescent years. She did know, though, that her sexual identity was female and she wanted to marry a man one day. Her social group at school was popular and cheerleaders, even though there was tons of drama. She did not drink or do drugs, even though some of the guys in her friend group did. She said she always stayed away from it. She hung out around town at diners and movie theaters and had sleepovers with her cheerleader friends. She had her own style, but mostly you had to wear skirts below the knee, and school had uniforms. According to Rogers, proper encouragement from parents, teachers, and peers will allow adolescents to emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and feeling of independence and control. Jay was not given the proper encouragement going through high school with her dreams to become a doctor. Women's roles were sought to be working as a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary, none of which Jay wanted to do. She had encouragement from teachers and peers in her classes to follow her dreams, but she never got the proper resources. Most people just looked at her like she was crazy. According to Rogers, finding a career path or another path in adulthood is important. Jay did not find a career path. She did not know what she should do. She grew up in a different town where everyone worked the same jobs. When she was 18, she ended up meeting the love of her life, who she is still married to today. She knew this man her entire adolescent years, but never took interest in him until they were both about the age of 18. After high school, he joined the military and they ended up getting married and being pregnant. They had 3 wonderful children. Jay realized her life path when she was 18 was to be a mother all along. She doesn't know if her parents were right or wrong about not letting her go to college or not being able to afford it, but she does not regret not going to school since she got to travel with the world with her husband and his military career. Rogers believes that confusion during the psychosocial crisis stage can also come from expectations of different people in their lives, especially parents. Her parents were very supportive of her marriage and pregnancies. This led Jay to some confusion as well, because they did not support her in going to school. Jay, however, had many accomplishments at the end of her life when I asked her. She really was happy that she graduated the top of her high school class with straight A's. She was the valedictorian. She won all her cheer competitions and was asked to do special competitions in other states. She kept a stable relationship with her parents until they passed a couple years ago, even with their differences. She found the love of her life and became an amazing mother at a young age. There are a lot of biopsychosocial factors in the NJ's life. This includes education, social class, race, religion, and gender. Jay grew up in a town of all white people. There were no African Americans or other race. She actually believed until she was the age of 45 that all African Americans were poor. She went to school with the same students from kindergarten until 12th grade. So she grew up knowing everyone and everything. She lived in a small town and there were no secrets. She didn't know life outside her town or any struggles the economy was having. Her parents kept her in a bubble, and now looking back, she doesn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. She states both her parents worked full time and lived happily together. She remembers her dad as the happy one of the house, always making jokes. She remembers her mom as the one who glued things together. She remembers women roles were completely different. They were to take care of the home or work as an office admin, nurse, or teacher. She went to church every Sunday. Her family was Catholic, and she was not familiar with any other religion. She was a cheerleader. She had great friends. She never experienced drugs or alcohol. Her social class was popular. She was the top of her class, but she had no way to go to college. The social influence of both her parents working full-time gave her a sense of wanting to work, but both her parents did not attend college and still believed it was unimportant. Growing up in an era where women are supposed to stay home with children was confusing to Jay, especially since her mom was working full-time. She didn't understand why her parents wanted that for her. She ended up, though, marrying at the age of 18 and stopped trying to get into school to save up for it since she became a mother and a military wife. When applying the ecological theory to crisis resolution, microsystem includes school, friends, family, and church. The mesosystem includes the interactions between the interviewee's parents and teachers, peers, and parents. The exosystem are the parents working full-time. The interviewee talked about how the parents did not bring work into their home life. The macrosystem is gender roles and community. When choosing another theory to relate to Jay's adolescent years, I picked conflict theory. The conflict theory, created by German philosopher and sociologist Karl Marx, occurs due to competition for limited resources. People are taught to accept their social class. Conflict perspective is used to maintain the status quo. The interviewee was raised in a low social economic status. She was not afforded the same opportunities as students of higher status, even though her academic ability was amazing as well as her desire to learn. There are many theory limitations. I chose to still continue and talk about the conflict theory and its limited aspects. The conflict theory is limited to certain environments. Incorporating the conflict theory into environments such as home has its own set of challenges. While the conflict theory certainly would relate to the social class relationships, it is much more difficult to bring that concept into family dynamics as the link between the two is extremely limited. Most research done on conflict theory is focused on the individual conflict compared to the interpersonal conflict. Limitations include environments, especially the home of individuals they grow up in. Relating to Jay's life, her parents grew up in a home where they did not want her to go to college. This was a conflict in her adolescent years since she believed elsewise and wanted to go to school to be a doctor. In conclusion, Jay finally accepted the fact that she would not attend college. Society has denied her the ability to experiment with roles and explore who she is as an individual. Jay was in role confusion. She did not feel like she knew who she was deep down and went through life constantly playing the part that her parents or friends wanted her to play. She finally found her identity when she became a mother, although she did not think it would happen so soon. She really loved the life she was given. She was a joy to interview, and I love hearing her perspective of life. Jay explored her independence and developed a sense of self. Jay quoted, "I lived a wonderful and happy life. I found myself through the struggles, and God put me on this earth to be a mother, and that is my identity." Thanks for watching my presentation, guys.